Alrighty, and the question is, who's next? The angry mob is everywhere, and you're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm John Tobacco, coming today live as we do every single day lately from the Corona Bunker Studios in the living room of my house in New York City. Yes, just on the outskirts in Staten Island where there's still sanity and civilization for the moment. But as you know, big story, just 2 nights ago, $1 billion cut, defunded from the NYPD. We'll talk about that and a lot more. Great news in the markets today. Dow was up almost as much as 500 this morning. Donald Trump came out and talked about the massive job gains, 7.5 million jobs in the last couple of months, which is good news. It's apparently a record. Let's not forget, though, that we had quite the record unemployment going down. You got to fight twice as hard when you're going uphill, so it is a big accomplishment, but still lots to talk about on that front. I think the market is way overhyped right now. You should stay very careful. If you're a day trader, you might want to hit the bid right now. You know, there's an old saying in the markets, sell in May and go away, meaning nothing good happens over the summer. And, you know, a long macro theory is, you know, if you're going to sell anything, sell it in May and go away. Take the summer off, trade lightly, and then September, there'll be some action, hopefully. Bitcoin struggling a bit here in the low nines, 9,100, 9,200, right in there, nibbling around. Lots of good stuff happening, if you ask me. I think Bitcoin continues to look like more of a strong alternative asset. And as I've been talking about for months now, you can actually put Bitcoin in your IRA, self-directed IRA or otherwise. And there are also some great tools you can use and great programs out there that you can add big data and cryptocurrency. If you want to know about any of that, feel free to reach out to me anytime you want. JT at liquidlunchtv.com. Now, why was I playing the Jaws theme coming into the show? You know, everyone remembers Roy Scheider, fantastic Hollywood actor, passed in, I believe, 2006. And I want to memorialize him a little bit because he and that song made the movie Jaws famous. And I feel like I hear that song playing in my head over and over and over for the last month or so, ever since the Black Lives Matter and the Antifa hijacked the peaceful protesters looking for some, you know, social justice and an end to police brutality. You know, they came for Aunt Jemima. We talked about it. They came for Uncle Ben. They came for Eskimo Pie. They came for Land O'Lakes. They came for Teddy Roosevelt. They came, and they're still coming, for Christopher Columbus. And this is making me lose my mind because I don't know what Christopher Columbus. They're coming for cities now. They're occupying New York City. The House of Representatives has passed a resolution to rename Washington, D.C., remove Washington and Columbia and make it Douglas Commonwealth. I could see the statehood. The name change, a little tough for me. And now the big news on TikTok. They're coming for your red, white, and blue. These millennials want you to wear rainbows this year. All that and more. Lots coming up to talk about. Joe Pacillo is going to join us right after this.
5, 4, 3, 2.
right, welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch, as you do hopefully every single day. We're coming to you live from the Corona Bunker Studios until further notice. And as I noted in my opening, a cause that I think all Americans were united in for a moment to stop police brutality and give some social justice, maybe retrain the police force, maybe get back to things like community policing so the cops know the people in their neighborhood. But in any event, I think they've absolutely watered down their message by going after such crazy things at this point, like fictional food characters like Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima and Eskimo pies, and now the District of Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, they want to change the name of it to Douglas Commonwealth. This is really the corrosion of our principles that our country was built on. And I mentioned yesterday on the show that the actual founders of Black Lives Matter, three women, and you can look them up. I'm not going to give them any more publicity than they already get, but they are self-avowed, self-admitted Marxists. And if you want to know, one of the things the Marxist principles call for is to destroy the Western civilization model by breaking up the nuclear family and making it a community or a commune, and we will raise our children by village. So there's no structural parental matriarch, patriarch. It's just one big conglomeration of sameness. And it's absolutely sick. And now they're going after Christopher Columbus because they say he enslaved indigenous people. You know, if you go back through time, we might as well just name the whole planet neutral. But look, a couple guys who are on the front line all the time. They are the co-hosts of The Front Line with Joe and Joe, heard on YouTube. Joe Pacillo and Joe Recinello. These guys are sidewalk counselors. They go out to abortion centers in New Jersey and New York, former stockbroker. Joe Pacillo is, and they're missionaries of charity. And guys, you've been part of this lay movement for the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. You have a global following. How do you feel? I don't want to get into religion first, but you know, I see a lot of vowels in there. I got a vowel. My partner Frank's got a vowel. I know you posted the removal of the Columbus statue in Newark. I've been trying to call this mayor of Newark. How bad is this in the corrosion of, you know, our history and our principles of this country to start ripping down Christopher Columbus?
John, let me, rather than say what, let's say, happened down there, let me answer your question by giving you a quote. May I do that?
Sure, you can do whatever you want.
All right, let me read you this quote. Let me read you this quote, and this will kind of like, this will encapsulate it for you. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture repainted, every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered, and the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present, which the party is always right. Now, that's George Orwell, John. I think he's a little bit smarter than me, okay? And he wrote that in 1980, or in his novel 1984. And my question, the way I would answer your question is, are we not seeing right now everything that's in that quote?
I think it's verbatim. And Joe, I don't know if you guys saw it or talked about it on The Front Line with Joe and Joe on YouTube, but you know, there's a bunch of kids now out there that are part of this movement. They got like 1 million views on TikTok, and they're encouraging people or trying to convince people not to wear red, white, and blue, but to wear a rainbow for Independence Day, or else you're a racist. And yeah, I mean, everything you quoted in there, they're trying to change Columbus Day to Juneteenth. So they want to change the dates, the histories, the colors. It's on the money.
John, something I want to also talk about a little bit is it's not going to end with statues. If you look at history, anytime there is attack on statues or history, free speech is then attacked. We're seeing that right now. This country used to value a pluralism. It valued discourse. It no longer does. We see journalists, they're advocates, they're not journalists. You cannot speak or question the defunding of the police. You cannot question or even have an intelligent conversation if institutional racism exists or not. This is an attack, maybe the largest attack on free speech that America has ever faced. We're seeing it in corporate America. We're seeing it in academia. We're seeing it on social media. If you put the wrong thing on social media, you can be doxxed and lose your job. History has always shown that orthodoxy is never satisfied with silence. It demands speech. And once it gets speech, it then looks for blood. That means you, John. That means me. That means Joe Pasillo. This country was founded by immigrants. Joe Pasillo and I are calling all people of goodwill, black, white, Latin Americans, Asian Americans, to get back to basics. What are the basics? God and country. We have to get back to our moral compass. We have to stand up. We have to say the truth. This movement that Joe and I have started is calling men particularly. We must be unwavering. We must stand for the truth. Be damned the consequences, because our country is at stake and a war is being waged against us.
I agree with you. And listen, I'm proud of my Italian heritage, and I'm also half Irish. And if you go back into the annals of history, in New York City, there were government contracts put out that said, hey, you can't hire Irish or Italian. So, you know, like if we dig down into the history of every race, it's disgusting. But what is the front line with Joe and Joe is the show, but what's the movement? What is the movement? Because I agree with you. I've been saying it for like a year now. The white, middle-aged male is under complete attack right now.
Yeah, they have declared us their enemy. The problem, John, is that they think we're not going to fight back. Now, Joe and I are Catholic men. You mentioned that earlier. We're not advocating violence in any way other than self-defense. That's it. This is not ours. Is a movement that really, if we had to give it one word, it would be no. It's the movement of no. We have to start saying no to the leftist radicals. We have to let them, like Joe mentioned about attacking our free speech. You can't debate these people. You can't have an argument because they say, no, the debate is settled. If you don't accept it, you're a racist, or you hate gay people, or you hate women, or you hate this group, or you hate that group, or you hate Jews. It's like, as soon as you say no to them, we don't want to have a debate. The debates are already out there. You people are not interested in debate. You're interested in imposing your political power and your political will on us. If you had to characterize, if you want to call it our movement, I would say men, like Joe said, in particular, and all men. Okay, because remember something, John, you made a point about white men being under attack. Black men who think like us are under attack. Hispanic
oh my goodness, I agree.
Yeah, so our thing is this. We must have the courage to stand firm and say no to the leftist rage mob. We must do this. If you value America, we have to demand this.
And John, it's about all people. I mean, Joe Pasillo and I are married to sisters who happen to be African American. We love everybody.
Ah, beautiful.
I love Irish people.
Right.
I love Italian people. I love everybody.
Guys, I got to leave it there. I'm going to ask my audience to go check out The Front Line with Joe and Joe on YouTube and learn more about how you can join the cause of saying no. Hey, all right, it's Thirsty Thursday. Oh my, it's a sunny day in New York City, and I'm feeling pretty good, actually. I'm off tomorrow, and I'm really taking a day off, but, you know, probably play some golf, have some people over, and celebrate the 4th of July with, you can't see it today because it's so bright outside, but Old Glory flying proudly in my backyard. Why am I playing that Jaws music? Because that's what I hear in my head constantly. And I think, you know, maybe in some ways even takes everybody back to that fear everyone had as a little kid. Even jumping in your own pool, if somebody started swimming around with their hand out of the water like this, going to the beach, everyone was petrified about a movie, which was a mechanical shark. And we all knew it was a mechanical shark, but we were still scared to go in the water. And if you're not scared right now, there's something wrong with you. Because we should all be scared. And there's a certain time where everybody sits back and, oh, darling, these leftists are so crazy. And they're sitting in the Hamptons and up in their high-rise buildings. Oh, look at these animals down there. And little by little, they say, we have to do something. And then, you know, there's a rally of, you know, sane patriots somewhere, and 300-400 people strong show up. You got these wackos out there saying defund the police, okay, looting, rioting, burning things down, making their own zones. Everyone was against the wall. The old wall, we don't need a wall, we need open borders. We don't need a wall. A wall doesn't prevent people from entering. All the big Democrats live in houses behind walls, including Nancy Pelosi. What's the first thing these thugs do when they try to take over a town? They put up barricades all around the thing. They build a wall, okay? And, you know, this week in New York City, one of the first dominoes to fall, an actual $1 billion, okay? This is some real Dr. Evil stuff right here. Bill de Blasio and the majority of the New York City Council, and I'm going to be rattling off their names a little later on in the show, voted to take $1 billion, 1/6 of the budget to the finest police force on earth, and redistribute it wherever they think it should go. But they cut a whole cop class that was coming in, a whole academy this summer. They're taking away anti-crime, plain clothes. It's going to be a summer of love. Just like Mayor Drunken out there in Seattle said, it's like a block party. It's just like, it's an area where we always have street festivals. It's going to be a summer of love. And then all of a sudden, the angry mob decided that they were mad at the mayor, and they showed up at our house. What's the first thing she did? Beep, 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 beep. 911. I need a... And then all of a sudden, when they come for you, you know the old song, what you gonna do when they come for you? I think that was the song from Cops, which is thrown off the air now. One of the other things they came for already. And Mayor Durkin, as soon as the mob came for her, then she decided that it was time to shut down the Chaz. We don't need any more Chaz. And if you didn't see it last night, you know, I watch all news channels to try to get a good view for myself. And Sean Hannity had on the father of one of the young men that was shot and chopped that led to the closing. He said that the mayor of Seattle has not called him to date. It's 2 weeks. He's burying his son this morning. The governor has not called. No one from the CHOP, Chaz, Black Lives, Antifa called. No one even gave him an answer. He had to wait like 6 days to identify the body of his son. He had to bury his 19-year-old son today. And isn't it strange that here's an African-American man who kept his nuclear family together. He said, I raised that boy since he was 2 years old. I said, I love you to him every night before he went to bed. And when I seen him in the morning, it's the first thing I do in the morning is go look in their rooms. And then, you know, he said his son was a little mentally unstable. He was a little developmentally disabled, and he was easy to convince to do things. So he said, you know, I saw him just a day before, and he was fine. He was home. And now my son's dead, and no one can tell me how it happened, who got him. And if you saw this disgusting footage, the cops had to actually come in like a fighting formation over the loudspeaker saying, please move out of the way so we can get to an injured person. We are seeking your help. Please get out of the way. The cops put the sirens on. You get out of the way. Anyway, aside from all the other crazy fictional characters that the mob is coming for, Law and Order is coming for Ghislaine Maxwell, the alleged madam of the Jeffrey Epstein underage sex ring. And, you know, Ghislaine's got all the books. She's got all the records. She's got all the names, numbers, phone numbers. She knows all the girls. She knows all the guys, all the boys, whoever went on the plane, whoever went on the island. So I can tell you this, that I want to be the first person to say this. Ghislaine was taken into custody by the FBI yesterday. I'm sure she's going to be under lock and key, just like Jeffrey Epstein. But I'm saying it first. You heard it here first. Ghislaine Maxwell did not kill herself.
Most financially successful people own assets that make them money while they sleep. They usually own real estate, vehicles, intellectual property, equipment, and more. These assets make passive income through leases, subscriptions, royalties, and fees that don't require time, energy, or attention. Your assets do the work, and you collect the check. So what kind of asset should you buy? The most valuable companies in the world, like Amazon, Google, and Apple, all have the same thing in common. They make a majority of their revenue from data technology assets, storing, collecting, processing, and providing data. It's all about the data. What if you could own data tech assets with a low upfront cost? Introducing Apex, a proprietary technology built to process and mine data and render artificial intelligence and 3D gaming at exceptionally high rates. Apex Tech has partnered with SafeTech, a subsidiary of a publicly traded company called InvestView. SafeTech's business model leverages Apex technology to disrupt the multi-trillion-dollar data tech industry, giving you the competitive advantage. SafeTech's growth strategy is to capture a significant share of the market. SafeTech will enter into a 60-month lease with owners of Apex Systems. Why would they do that? Why not just buy all the equipment themselves? The same reason most companies lease instead of own, to scale quickly without the upfront costs and for the tax benefits. So how do you get started? You purchase an Apex system. Then you can lease it to SafeTech for 60 months at a rate of $500 per month. That's a total of $30,000 paid to you over the life of the lease. So what's your responsibility besides purchasing the Apex system? Nothing. During the lease, SafeTech is responsible for any maintenance costs to keep things running for you. Just collect a check every month for the next 60 months. This tremendous financial opportunity positions you to follow the strategies of the financially successful. You can leverage data technology to produce passive income that generates revenue without your time, energy, or effort. This is what is meant by creating multiple streams of income. But the opportunity to participate will not last forever. If this concept fits your financial goals, take action today while you still have the chance.
Welcome back. Yeah. I know. You're getting tired of the Jaws music? Too bad. Keep letting it play in your head because, I don't know, people sit back, they don't say anything. They say, well, no, you know, they're only coming for the cops now. I'm not going to open my mouth. My union leader's going to get mad. And then you know who they come for next? The firemen. They come for the firemen, sanitation men, anything that creates civil order and safety. They're coming for you. I mentioned it a little earlier when I had the two hosts from the front line with Joe and Joe on, that for some reason they're coming after Christopher Columbus, which strikes a half Italian kid from Staten Island right where it hurts. And I feel like we got to do something at some point. People got to stand up and say no, because until someone stops them once, they're going to keep running the same play. And you know George Soros, he's one of the richest guys in the world, okay? And when you see a play is working, you just keep running it until the other guy on the defense comes up with a plan to stop it. We got to stop it. People, the silent majority, got to stop it. One thing they're not coming for right now is your weed, as more and more states tend to be legalizing marijuana. Hemp products are good here, I think, in New York. And, if you're not using CBD yet, you need it, and you certainly need it in quarantine with the riots and the looting and the murder hornets. You need some CBD in your life, and the best product around is joining us right now. Eric Smart, he's a consumer expert and is the CEO of Myoderm. And they're the #1 retail distributor of CBD brand in the U.S. Eric, thanks for joining us. I think everybody needs a little CBD in their life at this point, don't they?
Thanks, John. Certainly, we'd like to help them out with aches and pains, and there's plenty to go around right now.
What about, I know you say aches and pains, and I know there's, other, I think, me personally, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. I'm not making any medical statements or anything like that, but I think there are other significant material things that CBD helps people with. Nervousness, anxiety. Aren't there a lot of other benefits, at least anecdotally?
Absolutely. Actually, there's well-documented clinical studies for a prescription medication called Epidiolex, which uses CBD to help with a seizure condition for kids called Dravet's. So that is, a clear indication of therapeutic capability. As far as anecdotally, certainly aches and pains has been a big one. We are starting to see some good evidence around anxiety, stress, management, things of that nature. And maybe there's more. The science is a little thin right now. It's been banned for 50 years, so it's got some catching up to do. But yeah, in the market, we're seeing very good results for different types of ways it can help folks.
So, I don't know if you heard, but I've been playing the Jaws music on all my ends today because I feel like that's what's happening in our society. You never know who the Jaws are coming for next. It sure seems like where in the space you're in, there has been a tremendous rebirth. You said it's been dead for 50 years. But I know in the early stages when the CBD topicals were coming out, they were sloppy. A few years back. Now the application processes I've seen and even tried a few, they're thin. You guys, you have the best of the best in this.
Well, we have real pharmaceutical technologies that make it so that we can actually drive the CBD into your muscle and connective tissue. Most of the products you're going to buy are kind of oily messes, or you smell like a locker room, which is really just icy hot, 5 times as expensive. So that's kind of a consumer fraud problem we have in the industry. When you're looking at CBD products, you want to find something that's got real technologies in it, because to get the therapeutic value of CBD, you need it through your skin from a topical standpoint into the muscle and connective tissue, which is what we provide.
Got it. So I'm a big AM talk radio guy. I listen to a lot of radio and different, people on the radio. And more and more people that I've been hearing, advertisers that I've been hearing for years, nutrients, not FDA approved, all this other stuff, super beans or whatever, they've all added these new lines into their advertising that helps strengthen the immune system. That is really crap, right? I mean, I'm sure some of these vegetable-based things have some properties, but there's a lot of people getting ripped off on these supplement scams, aren't they?
We see a tremendous amount of scams and frauds because in our industry, it's kind of prevalent. Like, it's a new industry, lots of early movers, not making great products, but making big claims. And we also see, especially with COVID and the intensity of it, it creates a lot of fear, right? So people are trying to find ways to, quote unquote, prevent or cure or help fight against COVID. So that's been a huge catalyst for fraud. And certainly when you look at dietary supplements, most of them don't really do anything. I will say this, vitamin D is pretty good. Like, people need more vitamin D. Other than that, just eat healthy, get a good night's sleep, don't drink too much. You can have a cocktail, just, kind of keep it under control a little bit.
Oh man, and, you're killing me there. I'm treating, today's Thursday, but I'm treating it like a Friday, and I'm already on my second martini, and now you're gonna tell me not too much? No way.
I don't know, man. Two's okay. When you start.
2 is just lunch. I got the whole weekend to go from here. Hey,
your limits.
Let me ask you this. According to the FTC, this year there have been 110,000 reports of COVID-related scams to the tune of like $70 million. How can people, what are simple things you can give people a little tip not to get caught up believing this thing is going to have some superpowers?
Okay, I cannot stress this enough. If it says prevents or cures, it's garbage. Do not click on it. Do not buy it. Do not have anything to do with it. If it says it's going to boost your immune system, that is usually a very, very tenuous, most likely untrue statement. The best thing you can do is buy products that you know and trust from national retailers. Don't get caught in email scams. And certainly, if you have any questions, ask a healthcare professional or even a trusted friend. Like, what do you think about this before you pull the trigger?
What are the good names that aren't known for this type of consumer fraud?
Well, if you go into any major pharmacy, generally a supermarket, certainly outdoor retailers, convenience stores, they'll be a little, they have some dicey stuff in there. But for the most part, big retailers, national retailers are going to have products that have been vetted, are trustworthy, are safe. They're made in FDA registered facilities.
Yeah.
And that's a big concern. A lot of this stuff you buy over the internet, it's made in someone's kitchen sink almost. It's
that's
really
for sure.
sketchy.
Hey, you know what? I want to go back to the vitamin D thing for a minute. I'm talking to Eric Smart, consumer expert and CEO of Myoderm. And Eric, here's a funny thing. My friend here in Staten Island, New York, owns a couple tanning salons, right? Mm-hmm. And he's only got 6 beds, and they won't let him open his tanning salon. And he tried to make the case to say, hey, I have these 2020 super beds here, and there's all kinds of proof that the UV light is good to fight off corona, somehow, and it also enhances your vitamin D. And like the courts gave that none. And a lot of doctors I knew were saying they were loading people up with vitamin D. In the last minute, how good is vitamin D for you?
Most people are vitamin D deficient. So get in the sun while it's summertime, get a little sun on you. If you're wearing sunscreen, you're not going to get vitamin D. So unfortunately, you're going to have to spend 10, 15 minutes without a sunscreen on. Other than that, you can take a supplement. They're quite good. You don't take the recommended dosage. You don't need any more than that. And that will help you feel a little better and will optimize your immune system.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Eric Smart, CEO of Myoderm, thank you very much for joining us. And we got to have you back. Hopefully you'll come on Wake and Bake soon.
I'd love to.
All right, brother. Have a great 4th.
You too.
We're going to take a quick break right here on Liquid Lunch and come back right after this with some news of the day. The news with the booze right after this. All right. Yep. Welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. Also have quite the strong audience out there in the social media land. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, giving me your feedback. If you want to get a little inside track on what's happening, you can always check us out on Facebook at Liquid Lunch TV. And by the way, we're just almost to 1,000 followers on our Liquid Lunch YouTube page. So if anybody could maybe this weekend share some of this stuff and ask your friends to follow us. It's like good for YouTube. They actually let our videos get seen by more people if we can demonstrate that there's a bigger audience that really likes us. Still working on my Parler account. We're doing great. Jess, how many, we just joined Parler. If any of you people that are getting put in Facebook jail and all this other stuff, where are we?
300. We're at
300 in just like 2 days. In like 36 hours, we're at 300 people, which is nice. So if you didn't check out Parler, and I know a whole bunch, I joined also, a lot of people followed me. Thank you. Can't name them all, but they're coming in steady. And, it continues to boggle my mind why there aren't many more people on television willing to say simple truths. And I mean this. These are like simple truths. And I spent some time with my kids last night. We had dinner. We were talking. And my daughter Victoria, she's 21 years old. She's going to be a senior in a nursing program at Wagner College. Okay. Really sane kid. 3.8 index and all this other stuff. Okay. She's going to be a great nurse and she's a great woman. But she said, Daddy, I don't understand how anyone that's normal can say it's good to defund the police. That's what she said to me. She goes, I just don't understand. And I said to her, well, I know you don't understand because we're sane. You know what I mean? But there are insane people in this world who don't think they need cops or want cops anymore until they need cops. It's just like the mayor of Seattle was all summer love. Woo-hoo. It's like a street fair. It's a festival. And then the mob came to their house with torches and pitchforks. And who she do? She calls 911 and her private security force. And by the way, if Bill de Blasio here in New York is any sort of man of his word, which we know he's not, by the way, his real name also is Warren Wilhelm. He changed his name 3 times in life to go from Warren Wilhelm to Bill de Blasio. Okay, that's supposedly his name, but he's really Warren Wilhelm. And he's not a man of his word. But the first thing that should be cut is his private security detail. Because it's a summer of love. I mean, those guys, believe me when I tell you, my father was a cop. His partner and one of his best friends, Dennis Martin, and my cousin Bobby Fisher, they were on the City Hall detail, and they were there all the time. Those guys, like, who travel with the mayor, they get tons of overtime, and they all get cars to take home and everything else. Let's put those guys in a place where they're needed more, in their own home communities, where they could teach some young guys. These are veterans, you know what I mean? Let's take away de Blasio's security force first, and let him walk the streets like every other regular yeoman, okay? Special thanks and congrats to my good buddy since high school, Peter Devine. Just retired yesterday, just recently, not yesterday, but I found out yesterday. After 25 years of brave and arduous service to NYPD. And, you know, there's a big group text, a bunch of my buddies, and everyone was congratulating him. And he says, you know, it's time because the mayor and the city no longer have our backs. And that's how every single cop feels, not only here, but in every city that has a blue mayor and every state that has a blue governor who doesn't stand up and say, leave my cops alone. And it's going to keep happening. More guys are going to retire. They just canceled the new. We'll probably be down almost 10% of the police force here in New York from attrition, early retirements, and the cops they just forced out of the academy. So this is going to be David Dinkins' era. Will be like a carnival. Okay, that would be a street fair. This is going to be all-out mayhem in New York City, and it's coming soon. Across the country, everybody watching on Biz TV, you got a blue mayor. Believe me when I tell you, the new rallying cry from Joe Biden to his energy secretary, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to his probable VP, Kamala Harris, right down the line, Ilhan Omar, who's going to be the Secretary of State. All these people want to defund the police. And it's just out of control. Anyhow, my buddy Joe Holt, who's a retired cop, okay, and a lot of people send me things, and sometimes I kind of put like my close friends out to the side because I like to connect with new people watching the show. But my buddy Joe Holt, okay, he's the head man, runs all the operations at Monsignor Farrell High School, Catholic school guy, everything else, NYPD officer. What a guy, okay? Beautiful kids he raised. I got this from him. It's an index card. I don't know if you could see that on my phone. It's an index card, okay? Simple, handwritten. It says 13th Amendment. Abolish slavery. For those of you who don't remember your, junior high school history, 13th Amendment. Abolished slavery. The vote, 100% of Republicans, 23% of Democrats. That was abolishing slavery. 76% of the Democrats voted against abolishing slavery. The 14th Amendment, 7th grade social studies, slaves were given citizenship in the 14th Amendment. Hey, okay, our forefathers did some horrible things, and now you guys can, slavery is abolished, and you're actually citizens. We owe you, and you're in, okay? Giving slaves citizenship, 94% of Republicans, 0. of Democrats. So 100% of the Democrats voted against the 14th Amendment giving slaves citizenship. So let's find some of those Democrats there and find out where their statues are. Let's rip them down. Okay, let's leave Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt and Christopher Columbus alone. Let's go for the 76% of Democrats who did not vote for the abolishing slavery. And let's go for the 100% of Democrats at that time. I'm going to get some names. We're going to find out where their statues are. Okay? And this is the best one, where you can actually have a say in your representation. Okay? The 15th Amendment, ooh, still in the 7th grade. The 15th Amendment gave the right to vote for all men. Okay? 100% of Republicans voted yes. 0% of Democrats. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. I'm going to do more history for you right after this.
Welcome back, folks.
I've been taking my makeup off every day with the coronavirus wipes. I'm still corona free.
Couldn't even wipe your fake tan off.
Well, that's because that's not a fake tan. That's a real tan.
This November. And Democrats don't want to see it, at least establishment ones. It seems like they're trying to sort of
Against weed, but for guns, right? There's all these different, and to me the palette is the middle, there's different shades of purple, and that's who's going to decide this election. Right?
Wine's kicking in.
There you go.
It's just gonna work out after this.
30 seconds.
Right?
Your cue is you look for like 2 more. When I say 2 minutes left in the segment, you're building the next guy up.
Think about that song. Think about how scary it was when you were a kid. Oh my God, where's the shark? You could be on land and hear that song and start looking around for a shark. That's how compelling it was. And I'm going to keep using it until everybody starts complaining about it. But today's a special day because I'm going to have a nice weekend. I'm going to play some golf. I'm going to eat some good food. I am going to shoot off an abundant amount of fireworks on the 4th of July because from what I understand, fireworks are legal now. But if they're red, white, and blue, you have a big problem because these women on TikTok say red, white, and blue is racist. And they're calling for people to wear rainbow colors on the 4th of July. Now, on Liquid Lunch, and there's the article, okay, you can check it out, like 800,000 views and likes and all this other crap. No red, white, and blue. Okay, now, on Liquid Lunch, I've said this probably, let's see, 1 year, 20 days. I've probably said this 1,000 times in the last 14 months, okay? On Liquid Lunch, we have everyone. Democrats, Republicans, independents, white, black, Asian, Indian. Anyone we can get that brings a diverse thought process to what we're doing here, we bring on. Man, woman, had a transvestite, had questionable transvestites, I've had gender neutral people, I've had all, you name it. We had, I say it, I must have said it 1,000 times. We're flying every flag on this show, okay? Including the rainbow flag. And if I'm the executive producer and the host, so if I was some kind of wacko, you wouldn't have transvestites and gender neutral and people who had sexual change, and they wouldn't be on my show, okay? So I've demonstrated with action what I'm about. But the 4th of July is about the independence of our country. And at that time, the red, white, and blue is what all of the people in this country banded together behind. Not slavery, not indigenous people, nothing like that. Taxation without representation, oppression, tyranny. That's what we stood behind. And this is my buddy Scott Lebato's original. This is a peace sign. And I may wear it all weekend, or I'm going to wear every single thing that's red, white, and blue. We're going to take a quick break and come back after this with the candidate for the 79th Assembly District in the Bronx, Dion Powell, right after this. Alrighty then. It is a Thirsty Thursday edition of Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm John Tobacco. Hope you're having a cold one with me. It's a beautiful day here in New York. And I'd like to say it's a beautiful day for America as we come up upon the beautiful Independence Day weekend and celebration of our independence. But it ain't so beautiful out there right now. Scary stuff is happening all over the place. For most of the show, I've been playing the Jaws music to roll into the segments to keep reminding you that at some point, if you keep your mouth shut and sit back and say, well, they're coming for the cops, and they're coming for the Christopher Columbuses, and they're coming for the Teddy Roosevelts, at some point, they're going to come for you, and there just may be no one around left to speak up for you. Somebody who's trying to speak up for the 79th Assembly District here in New York in the Bronx, Dion Powell, joins us right now. He's a Democratic candidate, Executive Director of Governmental Affairs and Public Relations for political campaign training company, Special Forces. Dion, thanks for giving us a few minutes here. One of the things, you and I probably come down on different sides of the spectrum politically. I'm socially liberal, but fiscally I'm conservative. And but one of the things that I bet we agree on is that we can't let them hijack our fundamental democracy by going to mail-in voting. That, to me, I'm an Italian guy from Staten Island. I know the street side of life. I know the office side of life. And you start putting everybody's things in their mailbox, and clever people can do clever things, if you ask me.
Yes, John. Thank you for having me. Basically, I am a conservative on the conservative line for the general election this year. I'm also from the Bronx, thanks to the Bronx Surrey Party. Rest in the late Bill Newmark. Also, I helped start the Bronx Libertarian Party chapter. So my ideology is all over the place, but the reason why I'm on a Democratic primary is because my grandmother made me a lifelong Democrat and chose my bank and other things, is that it's the only way to win in the Bronx, right? We're the most bluest county in America per capita, but we're the poorest county, and people can't see the correlation. But today, John, I want to talk about the voter mail-in ballot fraud.
Wait, hang on. I just want to ask you something, because I'm loving you even more now that I know you're on the conservative line. You're also libertarian. So you did a little, I know some ground level political maneuvers. You did a little fox in sheep's clothing over there and got on the D line on top of everything else. I love it. All right.
That's right.
Tell me about mail-in voting, because I've been at war, just so you know. I have been in a personal one-man war for the last 15 years against one person, Stephen Richmond, attorney for the New York City Board of Elections, one of the most corrupt, awful enemies of democracy I have ever met in my entire life. He's a bum, and he basically takes the political life of people into his own hands constantly. Give me something good so I could join you in going after them.
You know, as we say in my culture, God is good, and it's funny you should say that, because I was taken to court yesterday virtually on Skype with Mr. Richmond, and somebody, maybe you heard of Mr. Stanley Schlein, or Stanley Slime here in the Bronx, our Bronx County attorney, because as a candidate, they're trying to prove that there is not any absentee ballot, mail-in ballot fraud, right? And so what me as a responded, we're trying to tell, listen, Stanley Schlein is actually actively involved in the Board of Elections now, where they're going to be counting these mail-in absentee ballots, right? Also, my opponent, female district leader Cynthia Cox, she's heavily involved in the Board of Elections, because people don't know that district leaders actually position the poll workers and site coordinators in the Board of Elections. So, of course, they can have a hand in any kind of corruption whatsoever, right? But to the issue of mail-in ballots here in New York City's primary. So back to your point, a lot of people understand they don't know how it works in the South Bronx because they keep us so poor, dependent, and dumb. For example, a lot of people don't know AOC, Trump, Bloomberg, and Bernie Sanders aren't Democrats, right? And then they can switch parties. So here's the corruption part. With the absentee voter ballot, it's a process called ballot harvesting. All the candidates for Congress, AOC, and our big contestant congressional race, the 15th, are doing it. What they do is they take the absentee ballot application door to door, have people fill it out, take it back to the Board of Election, and bring back their ballot. But here's the corruption part of it. For example, a lot of dead people can do this too, because if you have the same system of voter access, you can actually forge signatures. All right. Also, think about it. Immigrants can vote now too. Also, people can actually double dip. So, for example, you get somebody to vote for you by absentee mail-in ballot, but if they physically go to the polling site and they vote differently from what they gave you, that's a big red flag that the board hasn't accounted for, in my opinion. And also, we have people that have moved out of the district because they're on the roll. What they could do is take the information on the roll, have them vote a certain way, and they wouldn't know because they're no longer in the district. So there's a whole bunch of shenanigans that the president and the Department of Justice, William Barr, need to be put on their radar that's going on here.
I'm going to do a little inside baseball with you, okay? And I want to reiterate that Steve Richmond is the enemy of democracy, and he hijacked the Board of Elections for probably the last 20 years with fake rulings and fake legal opinions and everything else. And as long as they get one random from the other side, they all go with Richmond. It's so sickening. When I see him in the street downtown, I stop, I look him in the face, and I go, Steve, you're a bum. And I'm saying it right now on my national TV show, too, because he is. But the other day, I went to vote, okay, like I always do. And there was a primary election Republican. I'm an independent. I'm not registered in a party because I was in the Reform Party, okay? And the Reform Party disbanded. So I went to vote just to see if there was anything. I don't know what I even am anymore. They said I'm supposed to revert back to Republican, right? Because I was a Republican before that. But I went in, I asked for a ballot. They said, well, what's your address? I gave them my address. And they said, no, we don't have you at that address, Mr. Tobacco. I said, I lived there for 30 years. It's been my same address, right? Now, my ex-wife moved to another address near here, okay, outside of this district. And they had me registered at her address, okay? And they had me registered in the Sam Party because they gave me a ballot for a state executive committee primary in the Sam Party, which I never even joined the Sam Party.
Yes, I can speak on that too.
But I said, maybe, I don't know, maybe I went out after work and had a few cocktails and somebody got me to sign a Sam registration form. I don't remember, but they gave me the ballot, right? So I voted. And then it said, what party are you in? I said, other. I don't think I'm in a party, right? I bet you that vote gets counted in the Sam. And I don't know if you saw, but Mike Ryan is also probably one of the worst administrators of a Board of Elections I've seen in the last 20 years. And I think there were like 1,000 votes in the Sam State Committee vote, and there's only like 400 Sam members in the whole state. So tell me how that happens.
Well, that's interesting because I was at the Sam kickoff, Sam, New York, when they first got their line after the gubernatorial election. And that's been happening a lot, right? I tried to get their line for the general as well. But a lot of people can vote in that primary that are not eligible. Another case in point here, we had an entire slate taken off the ballot because they weren't in petition compliance. But because of Cuomo's executive order, they were back on the ballot, right? But the Board of Elections forgot to add them onto the rolls for voting. So now people are voting for people that don't exist, right? There's a whole bunch of snaggins. But get this, we have an assemblywoman named Carmen Arroyo here that was knocked off the ballot, an incumbent for decades. And also you have Miss Seawright that was knocked off the ballot for not compliance for petitions. But once again, Cuomo signed an executive order so they both can get back on the ballot and create their own party line if they get 1,000 signatures from any party, right? So now Seawright and Arroyo incumbents have a chance at the general election to get back on the ballot because Cuomo's executive order. So this governor does whatever he wants in these elections, and our democracy is now out the window.
No doubt about it. I know some of the guys that are have just joined the Sam Party. Actually, some of my teammates here on the production team joined the Sam Party, and I'm hoping that I was at that same event as you, upstairs in Midtown somewhere.
Yeah, I was there, Curtis.
Yeah. I was with Curtis and Frank, and Frank's now on the state committee, and a number of other people that Frank recruited. I'm hoping that the Sam Party can be one of these sane, level-headed parties in between all the wackiness. And look, Dion, we only had a minute left, but I want to have you back. Oh, we have 30 seconds left.
Yes, please.
I believe, and I've been doing an investigation for almost a year now because I have, serious technology background. I believe that the Board of Elections under Steve Richmond and Mike Ryan knows how to use the scanners to determine who a person voted for. And I think that's one of the biggest scandals ever in BOE history. Maybe we got to look into that together.
Yes, sir.
All right. Dion Powell, candidate for Assembly in the 79th District in the Bronx. Speaking the truth. Thank you, my friend. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you, Mr. Tobacco.
Coming back at you right after this for a little more Liquid Lunch.
For more Liquid Lunch, head over to YouTube, do a search for Liquid Lunch TV, and hit that subscribe button.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm John Tobacco, and the big fake news, if you ask me this week, and maybe it's not fake news. I'm sure Russia has some people near the border that want to encourage, these Taliban to go take out some U.S. If anybody thinks we're not at war in all sorts of ways with Russia, you're out of your mind. So the fact that everyone's going crazy, that there was a uncorroborated intelligence report that Russia was giving bounties to Taliban to kill U.S., it shouldn't shock anyone who understands the ways of the world. And someone who understands the ways of the world way better than us is Justin Sheffield. He's a former warfare operator of the United States Naval Special Warfare Development Group, or AKA SEAL Team 6, author of Mob 6, a SEAL Team 6 operator's battle in the fight for good over evil. Justin, thanks for giving us a few minutes today. Really appreciate it. God bless you. Thank you for your service, protecting our freedoms and liberties. We're under attack everywhere. But what do you have to say about this report that Russia is offering bounties on U.S. troops in Afghanistan?
Thank you for having me. So this is, you just nailed it. This is nothing new. We've been over there, longest war in our history, and the Taliban have always been paid off by somebody. Certainly nothing new with Russia, although I don't know how valid these claims are. But anyone going over there in our U.S. military needs to be aware that the Taliban, they're there to kill you, and they want to kill you, and we don't need to have peace talks with these people.
Well, yeah, I join you in that immensely, but you know a heck of a lot more than I do about it. But if I remember, Russia was in a war with Afghanistan, and I think that was one of their longest wars ever, and they kind of lost that one. They had to slink out of Afghanistan. Would you imagine that sometime in the history of America, when Russia was in there fighting in Afghanistan, that some U.S. special operators were by the border trying to encourage the opposition to kill some Russians?
Absolutely. And we're talking about, back in the 80s, I guess, so Northern Alliance. But this is still a common enemy, with the Taliban. Taliban has been a common enemy. So the people that we helped were actually fighting the Taliban when we went back.
Right.
Two different groups of people. You have Islamic extremism, which is Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and these terrorist groups. And then you have groups over there that are actually really good people, and they want to get their country back and get out of Sharia law.
So you're the author of SEAL Team 6, an operator's battle. SEAL Team 6 operators battles in the fight for good over evil. Are there any parallels of things you've seen on the battlefield against operators like the Taliban and ISIS? Are there any parallels you see to what these anarchists are doing in cities around the United States?
Great question. So I think that's what we need to be very, very careful of. going all over the world. The lawlessness, it just ensues after these terrorist groups take over, and they move in, they take over a place, they do horrible things to women and children, horrible things to men, and that's exactly what we're seeing in this country right now. We need to band together and get behind our police officers and men and women that are out there enforcing the law. We have to have a country with laws.
One of my relatives was a special operator for the U.S. He was in Egypt. His group was protecting the pyramids at one point when there was some credible threats of attacks on U.S. tourists. He was in Iraq where they were rebuilding schools. And he tells me that the tactics, these autonomous zones and taking over businesses and fighting, harming people, and looting and fires. These are the same fragmented fear tactics that ISIS used when they started to build the caliphate. Take over a small village, humiliate the men, rape the women, burn the schools, and take over their stores and businesses. That's what I feel like these Antifites are doing here in America.
Yes, sir. It's completely based on fear. That's how they control. They're pushing fear on people right now. I mean, you see Americans responding. I think some of the things going on right now is quite bizarre. I need, people need to know that you do not have to be in fear and you don't have to bow down to any of these groups. We're Americans. This is red, white, and blue, and we are one nation under God. And we need to come together, especially right now. We're going into Independence Day. It's a pretty serious time, and I think people need to wake up a little bit.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Your book talks about, all the strategies you guys have had in the past in protecting us and even proactively going out there and taking out threats. Apparently, not many have served more combat operations than you, like 1,000, only maybe a handful of folks in the world. One of my good buddies, I grew up with him. His son James Munson is just got out of Annapolis, and he's commissioned now. And I asked him, I said, all this crap going on in America, and Trump's always under attack. How did he's a young man, 23, 22, 23 years old. How did the younger guys in the military really feel about Trump? And he said, JT, I gotta tell you, they love the guy. As much as the media tells you this, that, and the other thing, the military has never been so united behind a guy. Do you feel that the military knows he has their back right now?
I really do. I have a pretty cool role now. I run a foundation for veterans that are getting out, but it keeps me really in tune with a lot of our brothers and sisters that are still in. And I can tell you that they do know that they feel like they have a commander-in-chief who truly supports this military.
I feel like as much as the president is under attack, I feel like he's actually doing what the Constitution says. In some of these places, he wants to order the National Guard in, but that's the way our government works. The governor controls the state militia until the federal government claims it. So I actually think the president is showing a tremendous amount of restraint, leaving it in governor's hands. I'm not saying it's great because it's happening, but if he takes one more step and asks the great men and women of our fighting forces to go in there and overrule the government, then he may actually create anarchy. So as much as they say he's crazy, I feel he's actually showing great restraint right now.
Yes, sir, I agree with you on that. People need to realize, too, that the U.S. military, we take an oath to protect the American people at all costs, whether it's from foreign or domestic terrorism. So the military is never going to turn on civilians. If they're ever used, and he is showing great restraint, but if they're ever used, it will be to do the exact same thing we do overseas, and that's rid terrorism, which we have going on right now, I believe.
So in our final couple of minutes here, I always like to get our audience some great little snippet to get in a moment or learn something. But I know in the book you talk about this great raid that you had where you actually saved a hostage and just what goes through your head like when you go into such an operation you know the possibility exists that you could be dead. How do you keep it?
Great question. That outfit that I was a part of, we were constantly training. Our number one mission was hostage rescue, and I feel like it's a blessing that I got to be a part of one. The whole team performed amazingly. I will give credit to the Lord here. I believe that he was absolutely present, as I always think he was and is. And so we had a little extra help. But I would say, you know, getting prepared for that, you have to accept death. You have to. I told all my guys, you're going to accept rounds. This is hostage rescue. Very different than going in combat against the Taliban, per se. So, you know, it doesn't matter white, black, female, male, gay, straight, whatever they are, Muslim, Christian, we're going to save them. So that's what you're dealing with at SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, and I would imagine when the call comes in, hey, we have a hostage situation, the commander doesn't say, well, what color is the person or what sex is the person. I want to encourage our audience, please go out there, go on Amazon, check out Mob 6, and it's Mob, Roman numeral VI, Mob 6, a SEAL Team 6 operators battles in the fight for good over evil. And my brother, thank you so much. We need more men like you because evil is trying to seep into corroding our society. And I hope our good men of our armed forces and women don't ever have to take to the streets of our own country. But I'm sure scared it may happen. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you, and God bless you, man. Thank you.
God bless you, too. That's Justin Sheffield, former SEAL Team 6 operator and a guy who's put his life on the line hundreds of times in combat missions for us. We'll take a quick break, come back with more Liquid Lunch for you right after this. All right, welcome back. You know, I had so much fun today. I seriously had so much fun today. Like, this morning, I was a little aggravated because I'm like, I don't know. Why don't we just take off Thursday and Friday? Because we're off Friday. Maybe let's take off Thursday. I can play golf and hang out. And then, you know, I was like, no. You know what? I wanna say happy Independence Day to all my friends out there. I want to have a good show. I want to end the week on a high note. I want to hit it hard, okay? And trust me when I tell you this, I have hit it hard. I don't know if you saw this video in New York City, but the cops are lined up in front of City Hall, and there's this person. Honestly, I can't tell if he's white or black, if he's a boy or a girl, but he's dressed in a ballerina skirt, and he's dancing to and fro in front of the cops, screaming in their face, okay? And I think it's kind of strange that a protester is taunting the police. He calls one of the cops, an African-American cop, he calls him a black Judas, okay? And he's howling at them that all you dummies, half of you don't even have a college degree. You don't even know anything. So now, all of a sudden, we are to bow to the wisdom of the wackos? Wait a minute. You have a degree, buddy? Or lady? Or whatever you are? You, they, he, Zed, Zen, whatever you're identifying at today. Looks like a guy, but he's frolicking around in a skirt and his hair in a man bun or whatever it is, so I'm confused by the hair and the skirt. But the guy's yelling at cops, you didn't go to college, you don't have a degree. So now the angry mob is education shaming the police who are out there to protect us and keep us safe. And by the way, in New York City, the cops, 51% minorities, okay? Men and women, great blend, all right? Why are they trying to shame? And by the way, I think you need at least an associate's degree to get on the NYPD these days. So, you know, it's not even a sane argument. But then again, as I mentioned a little earlier, my daughter, Victoria, had said to me, why would anybody think that that's good to defund the police? And I said, well, they do. And she said, well, who thinks like that? And I said, you don't understand it, darling, because we're seen. That's one of the things we pay taxes for, so we can get cops. So when $1 billion goes bye-bye, usually some politician is putting a nice hunk of that in their pocket. You know, like Barack Obama was a regular old community organizer before he became president. And as soon as he got out of the White House, he was worth like $300 million or something. So you figure it out. And Joe Biden reported, right before he left as vice president, he reported his income, his net worth to be around $400,000. And since he's no longer vice president, I think he's worth $10 million. He's got houses everywhere. His brother's rich. His son got $1.5 billion from China. When $1 billion gets cut from the NYPD, putting our real estate values, our neighborhood quality of life, and our children's lives in more danger because the public safety we're paying for just isn't there, more often than not, somebody's robbing that money. I can tell you 100%, somebody's getting a deal. I noticed the other day that, you know, I think Andrew Cuomo was saying that all malls have to have special equipment in their air conditioning units so that they can do a HEPA filtering or something. Guaranteed, somewhere out there, allegedly, somebody that Andrew Cuomo gets a lot of money from is in the air conditioning or air filtration business, because the new laws just keep on coming under this executive order. All right, sorry to rant, rave. No mistakes today, other than I still haven't fired Nico. I want to continue to wish Nico's dad Mario a speedy recovery, and smile a little bit. Take a couple extra painkillers, will you, so they let you out of there. And you, this weekend, no painkillers, but wear your red, white, and blue. Fly your flag. Old Glory is something to be proud of, not to be shamed about. And celebrate our independence, because we're under attack, folks. And if we don't get some pride, we may lose it all. I'm proud of you, and I thank you for being there. And I'll see you on Monday, same bat time, same bat channel. More Liquid Lunch.